distances as a running back. A couple of times I felt like we ran sideways at running back instead of hitting the ball up in there and taking what we got. Possibly, being in third and short, instead it's third and 2 or 3, which is a big difference when it comes to third down, or the possibility of making it 4-down territory. But we did create explosive plays on offense. There's times that we move the ball at will, but we've got to create some consistency there. The number one thing, we didn't turn the football over offensively, which in my opinion is why we won the football game. Again, kind of the same thing. There's a couple of times we felt like we should have got off the field on third down. Several times, we were a little bit out of place, and we've got to be able to make the other team beat us, and something that we've got to improve on this week. If you look at Missouri, just watching the game they played against Alabama, they won the second half. I know the game didn't start off the way they wanted to, but if you watch how they play, they played extremely hard. They were aggressive. They created problems in all 3 phases. So it'll be a tremendous challenge for us as we move forward. So I'll take any questions.
Blake, you there?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear you, Bill. Jeremy, why were Middleton and Chambers unavailable on Saturday?
Well, we talked about last week about from a standpoint of COVID and everything that's going on. I really just don't think it's fair to the players to probably put out exactly why they're not there. Hopefully, if everything works out, we can get these guys back very soon.
Was neither one a player discipline scenario, though?
I'm sorry, Blake, I didn't hear you.
Was either one a player discipline scenario, or was it something?
No, it's not player discipline.
Okay, just making sure. And yeah. Availability for this week for those two?
We'll see as the week goes.
Patrick Brown.
Hey, Jeremy, following up on the secondary the other night, why was Bryce the guy that got kind of bumped back to safety, and how do you think he played there? And then Danico Slaughter, what did you see from him in the game, good, bad, and otherwise, and where can he kind of go from this first game?
Yeah, it was, we really, Jalen McCullough didn't really get to practice. He got cleared and kind of going through the getting him back to make sure that everything was okay with him. We really wanted to go into the game with a plan. If we played him, it to be really in the second half. Kind of same with Warren Burrell. So they both had been in quarantine for quite some time, and just getting the guys back. So to move guys around. Bryce is a guy that has been in our system for a couple of years. So from a conceptual standpoint, we just felt like that was the best thing to do. Theo Jackson's a guy that really can play all the spots. And we went into the games really trying to train him at star, which is really not what he plays. He's more of a safety, but so we had depth in the game and to be able to have answers if somebody got hurt. That's the way we decided to go.
We'll go to David Pascal, followed by Teresa Walker.
Hey, Jeremy, I don't know if you get questions like this much, but when you think about up until yesterday or Saturday, you had tape of Missouri personnel, and you had tape of what Eli Drinkwitz liked to do at App State. How much time did you and your staff spend on the Missouri-Alabama tape yesterday, given that that's the only time you've got those two together as far as Missouri and the person and Drinkwitz?
Right. So, when we play late games like we played on Saturday night, getting back, it's probably 3 or 4 in the morning for our players. We really focused yesterday on cleaning up the last game. making sure that we get all the corrections done from that game, trying to fix ourselves before we start working on an opponent. And then we recruited the rest of the night. So we had a walkthrough last night. We're taking today off with our players, and we'll really focus on the rest of our game plan today.
Teresa?
Coach, you mentioned after the game Saturday night that the inability to practice as much as you wanted on special teams. With you being in a game week, are you going to be able to get that kind of practice time this week, or do you try to maybe add a period or two to focus on those areas?
No, I don't think it's adding a period or two. It's about having players available. You practice the first 4 practices, you have no specialists there, and then maybe 10 out of the next 14, you got over 50 players that are absent, so with no spring ball, so there's not like there's any carryover. So just being able to get the guys back and hopefully through the testing in the next couple of days, we'll get good results, and we'll be able just to rep guys in the same spots. I think probably creating a routine and the guys understanding this is the position that I'm going to play, and what goes with that's the things that we need. It's not necessarily more periods.
We'll go to David Oben, then Gustavo.
Jimmy, when you were able to kind of relook at the game, what were some things that jumped out to you that maybe you didn't realize live?
Well, I didn't realize how poor we were on third down offensively at the time. There was probably 3 offensive possessions that we had a chance to kind of maybe end the game or put the game a little bit, put some distance between us and them that we didn't do when we had good field position. So, we've got to do a better job of closing out. Defensively, we got to get more turnovers. We got 1 turnover in the game. The ball was on the ground with a minute before the half there. We had a chance to recover a fumble, which could have been huge, and we didn't. Got to be able to play the ball in the back end with a secondary and get some interceptions out of those guys.
Gustavo?
Pruitt, speaking of your alignment, DeAndre Johnson was the SEC lineman of the week. He had a good performance. He 6 tackles, 2.5 sacks. What you can say about your having DeAndre Johnson, the SEC lineman of the week?
Well, I think DeAndre's had a really good camp. He's one of the guys that has not missed a practice. He's been here every day, and it showed. He's practiced well. Every day. He's a guy that's been in our system for 3 years. Has some maturity about him. Has really worked hard this off season, and he's got to do it week in and week out. We need him to do that. Well, I don't think they could hear you because I can't hear you.
We'll go to Brent Hubbs, followed by Rob Lewis. Y'all here?
Yeah.
Coach Pruitt, now that you're going to week 2, do you have more comfort around your team because there's less unknowns, or because you're waiting on testing numbers 3 days a week, there's still kind of that uneasy feeling, and it's going to be that way all year because you don't know exactly what your roster is going to look like?
No, we have a lot of confidence in our players. It just, I guess, with the spike with the students coming back during August or whatever it was, we just had a lot of guys out, and it's hard to get good at football if you don't practice. It's hard to get chemistry as a team if you don't practice. The last week, with the exception of the guys that didn't travel and Warren Burrell and Jalen McCullough, we had most everybody there. Hopefully we can continue this week and create some momentum, create some chemistry in all 3 phases of our team. From the first game to the second game, lots of times is when you improve the most, and we have lots of areas that we need to improve on.
Rob?
Coach, in the front seven, you hold them to under 3 yards of rush. You get 4 sacks. What you think about the play of that group overall, and Jeremy Banks in particular in his first start at linebacker?
We to me, I feel like that we made a lot of errors up front. I can't question there. I felt like our kids played hard. We didn't always play smart. We've got to do a better job as a coaching staff, put them in position to do things that they can execute. So we'll work hard to do that. I love our players' attitude. They're very coachable. The way they reacted on the sideline when things didn't go our way, they didn't blink. They just kept getting coached, kept trying to find a way. Says a whole lot about them.
Austin Price, followed by Trey Wallace.
Coach, what did you see out of Paxton Brooks? Obviously, they had the low snap early, which wasn't on him, but after that, five of six of his punts were inside the 20, that booming 51-yarder that flipped the field, and then did a pretty good job on the rugby style punt.
Well, when Paxton signed here, he was like 6'5", 157. He's worked really hard in the weight room. I think he's about 195 now. I would have liked to have seen him on that bad snap to run over 2 or 3 folks and get us a first down. But he's kicked the ball well, and we need him to continue to do that.
Trey?
Jeremy, have you been told
anything? They didn't. None of y'all think that was too funny.
That was pretty good. Jeremy, have you been told anything by the university athletic department about presidents potentially voting on the interconference rule change?
No,
Mark Stoops had mentioned just a bit ago that the presidents were going to take a vote, and that possibly they could have players this season.
Who mentioned that?
Mark Stoops.
Oh, no, I've not heard that.
All right, we'll go back to Blake and then to David Oven.
Jeremy, you talked about your running game a little bit in the open, but in your offensive line in particular, what did you think about that unit in the running game? Were you able to impose the will up front the way you wanted to, or no?
I thought we finished blocks at times much better than we have in the past. We couple of times we got beat inside at the tackle position. We need more consistency out of the tackle position, especially in the run game. In the throw game, we've got to have a little firmer pocket there. I think that contributed some to our missed throws. But I do think as a unit, there was improvement there from last year, but it's not where we want to be at. And we've got to work hard this week to get there.
David.
Jeremy, how would you assess what you saw from your receivers on Saturday?
There was we made a couple of really nice plays, a couple of good run after the catches, got the ball out on the perimeter. I think we got to block a little better out there. Had a couple of missed assignments based off alignment, which put us in bad position to get friendly to the quarterback. Something that can't happen. We've got to be able to line up properly. And then there was a couple of balls out there that I thought maybe we needed to bring in. A couple of drops that stalled some drives there. So there's a lot in every position that we had on Saturday. There was really a lot of good things, okay, but there's really a whole lot of things that we can improve on, and that's what we've got to do this week.
All right, Luis Fernandez and back to Austin Price.
Jeremy, what did you think of Brandon Johnson's performance on Saturday? His first major game reps in quite some time. Were you impressed by what he was able to do?
Well, Brandon made one really, really tough catch down the sideline. Again, Brandon's a guy that hadn't missed any reps during camp. He's been at every practice. A guy that has some experience to him, a fifth-year guy, graduated. So, it don't surprise me. Brandon can play every position. He's also a good special teams player. He's an instinctive guy. And he's a good leader amongst the group. So anything that Brandon does doesn't surprise me.
Austin?
Coach, I know that Jeremy Banks had a couple of penalties that you'd like to have back, but taking that away, what did you see out of him, and how would you assess how he played in his first game back?
Well, getting penalties is part of how you play. I've coached a lot of really good players, and Jeremy has a chance to be a really good player, but he's not going to be a really good player unless he plays penalty free. You can play aggressive, you can play physical, but you can do it in between the whistles. And it goes back to decision making. And I'm sure when the game started, Jeremy didn't walk out there and say, man, I want to get 2 penalties. Okay. But he did, and that can't happen. But for the first game playing there, I thought him and Quavarius Crouch both done some things that were really good. We got messed up a couple of times there in coverage, but you got to think about both of these guys. Q played outside linebacker all last year because we thought it was the best fit for our team. We moved him inside for spring ball, and these guys they ain't played in a lot of live reps. So for the first time playing, there was some good and there's probably some bad for both of them. But there are 2 guys that we feel like that kind of play the same position, and we have packages to where we can get them, those 2 guys and Henry on the field at the same time. We just didn't think we were ready for that right now. So those guys have a lot of work to do this week. I think you'll see a lot of improvement out of both of those guys, especially after having a live contest.
All right, a couple more here. We'll go back to Brent Hubbs and then Emily at WKRN.
Coach, when you watch the tape, you mentioned your kids were coachable and you like their attitude on the sideline, specifically the freshman class. That's a pretty interesting situation to play your first collegiate game, an SEC game on the road at night. How did you think they responded leading up to the game? How do you think that they handled the game itself, just that freshman class?
Well, I think I don't know if it was 11 or 14 of them that played in the game. And I don't even know exactly how many we traveled, but these guys are going to play more and more of a role as the season goes. For us, I can't speak for the conference or any other school across the country, but for us, the circumstances that we've had over the last 6 weeks when it comes to people being available for practice has really hurt the freshman class, which is not normal. And if these guys, if we wouldn't have been without, maybe some of them have been in quarantine, but the fact that half our team was gone for most of camp, we could only practice 2 groups. And if you were a freshman that fit in that group to where you were a third team, it was hard to work your way up to be a first or second team guy. So I think over the next couple of weeks, you're going to see us play more and more of these guys. And as they get probably, or our coaching staff gets more comfortable in knowing that these guys know what to do so they can play fast.
Emily?
Hey, Coach, just kind of big picture here with the way that you guys started last season to now be on the longest win streak in the SEC. I mean, what does it say about the buy-in from the young men in your program?
Well, last year's over with. It's good that we finished out like we did. We're 1-0, okay? And the way I look at it, I count all the games that you play as losses in my book. So I say right now we're 1-9 until you go earn it and win it. We got a long ways to go. We got a lot of things we got to work on. And we've got a lot of time to do it in. So, this team, their identity, how they're going to be remembered. They've got 9 weeks to kind of decide that, and it'll be up to them. So we got a lot of season left.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.